Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. I'm Don Helbig alongside Ryan Sir. Episode number 56. This is going to be a great episode. I think you're going to be interested in the topics that we have tonight to talk about. Ryan, how have you been?
I've been great. I'm all caffeinated up and ready to do this. We've had some good weather here in the 70s the last 2 days, which is a great from the 90-degree heat. Great break from the 90-degree heat that we've had for the past several weeks. How you been?
Doing well. You talk about the break from the heat. I went to the Cincinnati Reds game last night, and, instead of the 80s and the 90s, it's 71 degrees. There's, kind of with the wind and everything like that. It was a little chilly walking there. I'm still in my shorts and my Hawaiian shirt, and it kind of depressed me a little bit knowing that the fall weather and then the winter weather just around the corner. Not a fan of it.
Well, I mean, you could think of it that way, or you could take the glass half full approach and just pretend like you're going to a Reds World Series game in October, which would also be much cooler. You didn't think
Now, there
about
you go.
that,
You're
did you?
right. Oh, I didn't think about that, especially the way the pitching's been lately.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, for those of you who are here, welcome once again. Where you can find the video version, which is an actual live video, live recorded. We don't broadcast live, that'd be absurd. But a live video on YouTube by searching for the Attractions Group podcast. You can search for us on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, by again searching for the Attractions Group podcast. Follow us on X/Twitter/ whatever they call it next at attractions_GRP. And make sure that if you are a Kings Island fan, as many of you I'm sure are, that you are checking out our second podcast, which is Tower Topics. That can be found the same way by searching for Tower Topics in YouTube and your favorite podcast apps. It's little miniature bite-sized episodes all about Kings Island and individual kind of like thinner sliced topics associated with the thing. So Don, it's another sequel episode. What do we got going on today?
It is. We are in the midst of the announcement season. There's still more to come. We started to cover that last week with what had been announced already. And this week we have four more announcements that have been made over the last 5 or 6 days. So let's get to it. We'll talk first Mason, Ohio, where Kings Island announced they'll open an area called Camp Snoopy in 2024. Work begins this fall, so if you're going to the park for the Halloween season and then Winterfest, you might see some work going on back there in Planet Snoopy. The Peanuts themed adventure play space and feature a brand new family boomerang roller coaster by Vekoma
Hmm.
that races both forward and backward. And Beagle Scout Acres. It's an area where kids can run, crawl, play, or relax with the family in a shaded, comfortable space. Ryan, I think this is an outstanding addition for Kings Island. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that I had the same logic as everybody else, where it was like, okay, we're due for either Water Park or Planet Snoopy, because both of which had been not added to in 5 years or so at this point. Um, and the rumor going around, and I think that it was like a pretty logical rumor, was that it was going to be a coaster similar to the one that was installed at Canada's Wonderland in their Planet Snoopy area, which, from what I understand, is a pretty big hit. But the fact that we got a Vekoma family boomerang coming, that exceeded my expectations. That's awesome. That ride looks really fun. And then the play area, yeah, that kind of reminds me of back in the. I mean, for me, I would say that we had Hanna-Barbera Land when I was really little. And then when I got to be a little bit older, it was Nickelodeon Central, which turned into Nickelodeon Universe, which got taken over by Snoopy. But Nickelodeon Central was always the one that I always thought was the best because there was a bunch of rides there, but there was other stuff that kind of fit the theme. There's like, the erupting tower and all that. This is like it's Camp Snoopy, so it's summer camp themed, and it looks like it's gonna have like the green pastures and like places to crawl through. And they didn't really elaborate too much on this yet, but they're gonna have activities so you can become a Beagle Scout, which sounds really fun. I'm very interested as to what those activities are going to be. But um, yeah, I mean, they announced Good Gravy a week before, and then here we are getting one in our own backyard. What do you think?
Like I said, I think it's a great addition. And what I'm really excited about is you look at, the theming that Cedar Fair has done, not only at Kings Island, when you look at Adventure Port and some of the other parks, look at the new area that Cedar Point has this year. It makes me very excited about what that area Camp Snoopy is going to look like when the park opens next year.
I completely agree, and you know what? To me, I think that the Camp Snoopy area is way better looking than the Planet Snoopy area at Cedar Point. Mainly because there's more to do with. Because although it is Planet Snoopy, it would imply that it's space themed, but it's not. It's more like Planet as in everything Snoopy. So with the camp, there's like we can have like the canoes and the kayaks and the campers and all sorts of stuff like that. There's just more stuff to play with, and it seems like that's the direction they're going to be going with this. I would say. Um, A plus announcement, sorely needed. Um, I think that's really cool. They mentioned in the press release that there's going to be like shaded areas and stuff. Number one thing that Planet Snoopy needs right now is more shade. It's very open. It's very concrete. And this is going to take care of that for a big swath of Planet Snoopy. So very, very exciting with that.
All right, Ryan, what's next?
Yeah, so sticking with the Cedar Fair chain, Dorney Park, our friends up in Pennsylvania, they're going to be opening Iron Menace, and that is a B&M dive coaster. It's going to be opening in the spring of 2024. The park's newest roller coaster, and it's actually the first new roller coaster to open there since 2005. Um, so they've had actually a Vekoma boomerang, not what we're getting at Kings Island, an old boomerang that has come and gone since then. They got Stinger, and that was the Invertigo model, forwards, backwards facing. Really cool ride. I really like those rides, but that actually came and went in between the time of them getting a new coaster and then opening another brand new coaster. They had a relocation come over and be torn down. But speaking of which, this ride is kind of going in the approximate location of where Stinger was. It is a dive coaster. One thing that is unique about it, though, that is not similar to other dive coasters is there's two. First of all, there's no mid-course break section, so there's only one dive, which I've seen arguments for and against it because it does take away an element, but at the same time, it does improve the pacing of the ride, which actually was probably going to be a net positive for him. And two, there is no turnaround at the top of the lift hill. Almost every other dive coaster, except for one in Europe, has a turnaround. So you go up the hill, you make the right-hand turn, another chain holds you, and then it drops you. This one is, from what I'm understanding, it's the way it works is it takes you to the top, and it's the same chain mechanism that's going to hold you, and you're going to go straight down, just like any other hyper giga coaster or anything like that. So, what do you think about these dive coasters?
I like them. Especially if they're in the right part of the park. You look at Cedar Point with Raven, and you look out and you see, the lake and everything out there. So yeah, I like them. I think the setting, with the park, you get a nice view. You're not up there long before you dive down, but they're fun. They're rewritable.
Yeah, and so this is it's not a short one. It's 160 feet tall, which is very respectable. 64 miles an hour, and it has a beyond vertical drop. Now that does intrigue me because, especially like Maverick at Cedar Point, that first drop, that first hill, is such an incredible effect, especially in the front row where you can't see the track below you. Like, I don't think from a sensation standpoint it's going to make that big of a difference, but if you're in that front row of that floorless B&M train and you're leaning over the edge, you do not see the track. You just see the track at the bottom. So I think that's going to be really, really neat. But yeah, this the theme of the ride actually has to do it's kind of like it's like an industrial theme, almost like the Steelers country thing. Where Steelers country at Kennywood is about the Steelers football team, the bad guys. But but the Steelers team themselves is paying tribute to the steel industry in Pittsburgh. So therefore it inherently takes it up. But this is kind of like a direct theme where it's the industrial like rust belts that is Pennsylvania. And I think it's a perfect theme.
Yeah, it's a great fit. I think it's a great addition. You mentioned, the first new roller coaster since 2005. That's when Hydra opened. It's going to be their eighth roller coaster. That's something that the guests that are regulars at Dorney Park, they've been asking for years for a new roller coaster, and they're going to get one, and they're going to get a good one.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be good. The dive coasters, a lot of enthusiasts think they all do the same thing, and you can't argue with that. But the fact of the matter is, it's it looks great. It's great
Now, I'm
photo
going to
opportunity.
disagree with that. I've been on the ones, at the Busch Gardens, Tampa, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. You got Cedar Point. I felt they all were unique in their own way. I didn't think, I've ridden one dive coaster. I've ridden them all. I think they've all had their own uniqueness, something that made them, stand out from the others.
No, I completely agree with that. And a testament to that is the fact that some are better than others. If it was Vekoma SLCs, who cares? It's the same ride. But I'm saying, like, the dive element stuff. What we need to do is we need to have a Giga that's a dive coaster, and then people will stop complaining. Yeah, no. I'm not trying to put this down whatsoever. I think it's fantastic, and I think that, like, for example, Val Raven at Cedar Point is terribly underrated. um, the ride experience itself is top notch, but the best part of that ride is when you're hanging over the edge and you can see for about 10 miles out to Lake Erie. I think we discussed this on the
Mhm.
episode about Cedar Point. I think it's fantastic. But to your point, though, there are elements of this ride that they haven't had on a dive coaster yet. So I guess I'm kind of when I say that the consensus, and that's a minor consensus, is that they're all very similar. I think that they're very much breaking this mold, especially with this ride. They did the first 95-degree drop with Dr. Diabolical down at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, but this one has like the sideways loop, that loop that's at about a 45-degree angle or so. I've never seen that before on a dive coaster. How cool is that? You know?
Gonna be very, very cool. For this, excited for Dorney Park and it's the team there. Very excited for the coaster enthusiast in the Pennsylvania area. And I think that it's going to get a lot of attention. And I think that it's a reason to go to Dorney Park next summer.
To be honest with you, Don, I've never been to Dorney Park, but I think this is my calling. I'm gonna have to make a
A lot of hills,
Pencil
a lot of hills.
Pennsylvania road trip. Hit Kennywood and Waldemere and Dorney, and yeah, might as well
Hershey Park.
Hershey Park. Might as well shoot up to Six Flags, New Jersey.
Well, you're right there. I mean, why
I,
not?
I,
So that's certainly on my bucket list next summer is to hit all those parks. So, but again, like I said, just very excited for everybody involved in this. The theming looks great. Love the name.
mhm.
Uh, can't wait to ride it.
Yeah, very, very exciting. What else is coming?
Well, during a live stream event Monday, Silver Dollar City, they revealed Fire in the Hole is set to get a major upgrade. Now they'd announced at one point that this was the last year for it, so it was, but it wasn't. The story and the name of the attraction will not be changing, but everything else will. As when Fire in the Hole reopens, it will be the largest indoor coaster in the Heartland. The coaster experience with a powered incline and gravity descent, including 3 drops and a quick splash landing, promises a thrilling ride. This sounds outstanding, Ryan. What are your thoughts?
I think we called it along with everybody else because when they announced that Fire in the Hole would be closing, we were skeptical. I think that we both agreed that Fire in the Hole, as we knew it, would be closing, but I am surprised that it's next year. I thought there would be a whole year in between, which would have been a real bummer for Silver Dollar City. Because I haven't been to Silver Dollar City, but being a gold pass holder to Dollywood, I know the value of Fire in the Hole, which is essentially identical. I freaking love that ride, and if they had to close it for a year, that would affect my decision to go. Not to sound petty or anything, but I just truly do enjoy that ride so much that it would be a real downer. So it's so cool that they're gonna, like, get this thing taken care of. They're working with Rocky Mountain Construction. I think you might have mentioned that. Um, and new themes. It's still gonna be fire themed. Did you see? I saw a lot of people referring to it as Fire in the Hole 2. Is that the official name, or are they just calling it Fire in the Hole?
Fire in the Hole was what I've seen. I think it's just being referenced as that maybe on social media by some people, but I think they did a great job. I watched the announcement that they did live, and you know, people were excited, and for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna go off on a tangent about, Blazing Fury at Dollywood because that's not exactly the same thing, but I could talk for hours about how much I enjoy that ride. That's to like, if I were you, that would
You and I both.
yeah, well, I mean, it's my you really enjoy the carousels and stuff, and I do too. But Blazing Fury, it's funny. Our friend Brandon at Theme Park Predictions did a ranking of all the Dollywood roller coasters, and he put that way close to the bottom because he's a thrill ride guy. And I almost texted him saying he wasn't my friend anymore because I couldn't disagree with him more. That is a top three at Dollywood for me. Silver Dollar City has a fine assortment of rides. But I would bet you dollars to donuts it would be a top three there as well. It's just such a joy. It's such a throwback. Um, The animatronics are just fun enough, and it has just a little bit of a thrill. It's great to ride with, like, friends and family and stuff. I got a nephew that's 5. I rode it with him for his first time. He calls it Blazing Fury now, but he used to call it Bridge Going Down because that part where the bridge falls, for Blazing Fury. Um, but, but the fact that they're redoing it, that means it's gonna be updated. That's gonna means it's gonna have new animatronics, new effects, whole new track system. Yeah, the way that they're describing it, it sounds like it's not gonna follow the exact same path and stuff. I can't guarantee that because I don't think we have that much information. But let me ask you this, Don. So, from your experience in managing PR, I've always wondered about this marketability because it's got to be the most difficult thing in the world to communicate out that you have a new ride. It's called, Fire in the Hole. I know you know a Fire in the Hole from us. This isn't the same Fire in the Hole, so come to the park to ride Fire in the Hole. Is that a difficult message to get out, and how do you think that they're gonna handle that when people see the advertisement and they're gonna assume that they'd already ridden Fire in the Hole? Like, how would you handle that messaging?
Well, I think they've handled it the right way. I think that, they've come out and they've said from the start, it's the similar in the name, but that's where it stops. That it's a whole new experience for you, and they put out there, kind of painting the picture for what the experience is going to be. So I think they've done a good job with that. That's just what they got to focus on is just the new elements of it. That the name's familiar, but the rest of it from that point on, it's different. You just do it that way, and you just have to maintain that over the next several months until it reopens, and just make sure that story is being told. That it is reimagined. It's got a lot of new elements to it. It's going to be a totally different experience for guests. They've not ridden this version of it before, and I think you just do it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that there would still be challenges associated with that messaging, though.
Oh, there will be. I mean, there'll be some of it. Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that. And, you just do the best you can with it, but you want to keep calling out what's new about it and make sure that that is at the forefront of your storytelling about this new attraction for next year.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I honestly think that if you're good at the messaging and you can get that message out, it can be very effective because there's a way to convey in both advertising and in public relations that it's this is Fire in the Hole, but you have to see it the new Fire in the Hole.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
you want to show during the course of construction, what's different about it. And you can do those side by side things. Here's what was here before, here's what it looks like now. It's different things like that too, throughout the winter when you're trying to promote the ride by showing the different, construction updates that parks do.
yeah. So a lot of work ahead of them for that, but
A question for you.
yeah.
We saw it last week with the announcement, where we have Top Thrill 2 reimagined,
Mhm.
with this one reimagined. And that, do you like that when you take something that's existing and you reimagine it, or would you just want to see everything get bulldozed down and you start from scratch?
Mm. That is a loaded question because I would need context because I feel like let's use Flight of Fear as an example, whether it's King's Dominion or King's Island. I love that ride because I think that is such a unique experience. The ride experience is like a 6 or 7 out of 10, so it's passable, but the whole theme and stuff is a 10 out of 10 for a seasonal park. So if you came to me and you said, "All right, Ryan, we can do this. We can either have Flight of Fear 2, and we can update the theming, and we can have a launch, an LSM launch in this case, and we'll put some new elements inside the spaghetti bowl and so on." I would totally prefer that over bulldozing it. But at the same time, when we're talking about like an arrow looper or something, I mean, what can you do? But with that being said, though, I like the sequel idea. I like how we're not trampling on the past. Fire in the Hole is Silver Dollar City. It's the foundation of what the park was and what it's become. It's because of that ride, and they're not losing that; they're improving upon it. So I think there's something to be said about that personally. Um,
Yeah.
so I would say that as a blanket statement, in situations like Fire in the Hole, absolutely. Blazing Fury, absolutely. Um, for some of the newer stuff, I mean, if it's just a coaster, I hate to say that because no coaster is just a coaster, but if there's nothing elementally like super unique about it, that can't be reproduced, then do some new ideas. But in this instance, they absolutely made the right idea or made the right choice.
Hmm.
What do you think?
No, I agree with you on that. Yeah, that's my feeling on it too. If you can improve upon what's currently there, why not do that? Because a lot of these attractions, they do have a following. They're part of people's, memories. It might have been somebody's first job. All those kind of things, play into it. So yeah, you want to keep that around if you can improve upon it. So yeah, I think when you can do that, I'm in favor of the refurbishment.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, America is not the only place where they're adding new attractions, and this is cheating, but Canada's Wonderland, they're adding Moosehorn Falls. Moosehorn Falls is it's a boomerang water slide. So essentially, you go down a hill, you go up like a wall. I've always heard them referred to as a wall, like a pro slide wall or something. But anyway, it does boomerang, so that's fair too. But it goes up the wall, it loses momentum, and it comes back backward, and that's kind of the, the you know the essence of the slide. Um, I think that's really cool. It looks like the mall's gonna the wall. So Don wrote this news article, and it's 13 meters tall because you had to do meters since we're in Canada, right?
I did. I did. I wanted to see if I could get you on that.
Yeah, you thought I was gonna say 13 feet, which would make be not tall enough. So now I've got to do the math. 13 meters to feet. Because for our American audience out there, so it's 42 feet, 7.811 inches, which you should have just said instead of
Now, for a
thir-
water attraction, that's pretty sizable there when you're talking about 42 feet.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the cool part is you got to remember the physics behind it. You go down the hill, you go up, you lose momentum, so that means your body is going to continue to move upward. So you talk about the sensation of airtime. There you go, right there. Sometimes water slides are really kind of underrated as far as their theme appeal, but these are really popular, and I know that, like, in Dubai and places like that where they have, like, the crazy water parks, these are some of the ones that they always have. Sometimes they have multiples of them. But, Canada's Wonderland's been on a roll. I mean, when we mentioned the Snoopy coaster that they added last year, and now this, I know that Canada is reputationally very cold, but it's very muggy there in the summer, so their water park is
Yeah, I was
probably.
gonna say you don't think water parks when you're thinking Canada. You always think cold, but you're right. It does have those muggy, humid summers there. Um, this is an attraction that's going to be both fun and thrilling. You can do it together with family and friends. There's just a lot to like about it.
I I completely agree. So Don, I hate to bring up Dollywood again, but there's some cool news coming out of Dollywood too. Not a new ride announcement. They're redoing the Dolly Parton Museum. They haven't announced anything about that except for that it's happening. They announced that last year. We'll certainly cover that once it becomes official. But what's the news out of Dollywood? That's pretty cool.
Well, the news out of Dollywood is Amusement Today is pleased to announce that the 2023 Golden Ticket Awards are prepared to welcome the amusement industry on September 8th and 9th. So that's just around the corner there in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, at the award winning Dollywood. Registration is now open, as is the availability to make reservations at the host hotel, Dollywood's Dreammore Resort. And if you've never gone to the Golden Ticket Awards, I highly recommend it. It is like, the Oscars, the Academy Awards. Um, just a great time, a lot of the industry, all the parks represented for the most part there. Uh, just a great experience and just a fun evening. They do a phenomenal job, Amusement Today, putting this event on every year. And the fact that it's in Dollywood here, so from where we're located in the greater Cincinnati area, and for a lot of people that listen to our podcast, you're only 4 or 5 hours away. So you should try to make an effort to do this, but make sure you register now because it's not going to be open much longer for registration.
Now, you mentioned that there's a host hotel, which is obviously the Dreammore Resort. Is the award ceremony at the Dreammore Resort? Because I remember the last time they hosted,
No, it's in the park. It's in the park itself. They have a
probably at the
theater that
Celebrity
they do.
Theater. I think that's where it's been in the past.
Yeah, it's in there, but you want to make those reservations to stay there. At the Dollywood Dreammore Resort. Why not just stay in the area, right? Right on property there, right?
Yeah, and so I can attest. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse because we did an episode about Dream More, but girlfriend and I stayed at Dreammore in the spring. It was very early season. Which probably the most unique thing was that it was March and they had the pool open, and it wasn't cold, but it was like in the 70s, and there were still people swimming. Which there's a whole like line of jokes that I always think about with that, about how, you got people in February in Florida where it gets down to like 56 degrees some days, but the family's still swimming because they're on vacation and damn it, they're gonna swim, but
Yeah.
there were still a lot of people swimming. But I tell you what, I can't say this enough because as you visit Dollywood, you have more and more of an appreciation for Dolly Parton herself. She's kind of a figurehead of Dollywood, but she's also one of those people that everybody can agree upon, no matter what your race, your religion, your political background, whatever. Dolly Parton she's an institution, she's an icon, and they have that legacy box that's in the lobby, and the
Mhm.
legacy box is a recording of her song. It's her final song. That's what she wants her to be her legacy. And she has instructions not to open it until what will be her 100th birthday. So January of, I think it's 2043 or
Yeah,
so.
she's seven. I want to say she's 77 now, so 23 years from now.
Yeah. So that
Um,
box is there. It's on display along with some eh, signage explaining it, but nobody really knows what's in there. As far they know it's a song, but they don't know, is it a USB stick? Is it a CD? Is it sheet music? People have said they know, and then people have backpedaled on it. So it'll be very interesting. I don't know if there's footage of her putting it in or anything like that. But that's a cool little quirk of the Dreammore Resort. Fantastic amenities.
imagine 23 years or whatever down the road when this gets opened up, with the technology, how it changes all the time. Whatever that's on, are you still going to be able to find a way to play it?
That would always be a concern of mine. I was actually thinking that as I was saying it. But the thing though is if we got like a floppy disk from 1985, like one of
You
those,
can figure it out.
there'd be somebody out there that has a computer that can run it.
You could figure it out. I wouldn't be able to figure it
But
out, but you
I could
could.
figure it out because I remember those. Anyway, yeah. So, but it's also kind of like it takes a long time for things to phase out because if it's a CD, like my car's a 2022. It does not have a CD player. Yours is a couple years older, not a lot, but enough to have a CD player, right?
I believe it
Okay.
does.
Your next car won't because they just don't do that anymore because all your music comes from Apple Music, or what Spotify, whatever your service is. Um, but with that being said, when's the last car on the road that has a CD player gonna die, be off the road? I bet it's in a
No,
really, really long time because there are millions of them out there. But that's an interesting conversation. I would say the riskier thing is the thumb drive if it was on like a flash drive. Because the file type might be something we don't use anymore. I mean, heck, it could be something that Windows can't read if Windows exists in 20 something years, or
hmm
Apple or whatever, you just don't know. But fortunately it's not like built into the cornerstone or anything. Like one example that's kind of reigns for both of us is when they tore down the Cincinnati Gardens, they found that time capsule in the cornerstone, but it was a lot of water damage and stuff to it because 75 years later, 80 years later, yeah, water's gonna get in it eventually, but this is
Yeah.
actually like in an actual, display box and, it's right there, but I think it's kinda cool, so
Yeah. The one thing I want to say too, if you're going to the golden tickets and you're working for a park and you are going to be someone that accepts should you win one of the categories, the thing that I remember most about it when I went there, the last time I was there, went up on the stage to accept for Kings Island, best kids area in the world, and you go up, you shake the hand of the person there that announced that you were, the winner. You turn around, you face the crowd, and I couldn't see anybody because of the way the darkness and everything, the lighting and all that out there. I couldn't see anybody out there. So that kind of, for a second, took me by surprise because you expect to see faces, but I couldn't.
you know what's funny about the Golden Ticket Awards is I feel like they absolutely cannot make everybody happy. Like, it's very, very rarely, especially like when a new thing wins. Let's say like best new attraction, one that's different every year. There's gonna be like 30% of people that are like, "Perfect choice," and then the other 70% are, "Should have been this," you know?
You gotta have that though. That's the way it works. That's the beauty of it. You want those debates. You want it to be spirited. You want people to talk about they think that this one, got gypped and should have won. I think that's awesome. That's what makes it great. If everything was hands down, there was no debate, then why do it?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And also it kind of gets boring at times. Like, when Cedar Point won Best Park for decades, it became like you can tune out when that park comes up. And then they swindled us with the Europa Park thing, and now Europa Park's been winning for 5 or 6 years. So that's almost not interesting too. But at the same time, um, some of the who wins the golden tickets is for the parks means a little bit because you can market that. To you and I, it doesn't matter. So it'd be interesting to see like, oh, Cedar Point was third last
But
year.
you know what? It does matter to me because if something is either the winner or even if they're nominated, they're one of the 5, maybe 10 that's in the category that's nominated, that makes me, wanna look into what that is. It makes me wanna go visit that park. So for me, yeah, it does matter. I wanna see who the nominees are and then why they were nominated, and I start to look into it, and then I become interested, and next thing you know, I'm at that park.
I do agree. And honestly, I wasn't super familiar with Europa Park until they won. And I started researching it and I was like, okay, I can see why this is the best park in the world. But what I'm saying is, yeah, Clark Griswold doesn't take his kids to Wallywood because they won the golden ticket. Now, there could have been a PR exposure that led to him going to Dollywood. That's what I think the value is. It's really like, world's best kids area, world's best new ride 2023, that sort of stuff. That's where the marketability comes in. But I'm saying like from a layman's standpoint, as somebody that's just on the sidelines looking at Amusement Today magazine, I think the real interesting thing is that sometimes the top of the category for, best water ride, best dark ride, stuff like that, that doesn't budge a whole lot, but the ones under it get shuffled a lot. And I think that's
Yeah.
almost as interesting nowadays, especially because things like Disney usually doesn't get thrown into this mix too much. I just think that their relationship with the industry is unique, so people don't think about that sort of stuff. But Universal, especially, I mean, every time they open a Harry Potter, it's like, where do you put that? Because it could be number one. And if
Mhm.
if they like, okay, let's keep Spider-Man as number 1, put it as number 2, but then number 5 got bumped, you know? So, I think that that's, it's
Yeah, but for me, it's one of those, I'm looking at it and like say a park finishes 4th for best food, and I look and see what they have, and I'm like, oh, their signature thing is chicken wings, and I like tell my wife, hey, we got to go here. They got chicken wings, and we go for the chicken wings. Maybe not the rides, but because those chicken wings were so good, they got nominated. That that appeals to me, and that's what I find interesting about the Golden Ticket Award is not necessarily always the winner. It's why did these other parks, why did all these parks get nominated? There had to be something about them. And then I want to do some research. I want to find out what it was that got them placed in that category.
yeah, but I also think that your situation is extraordinarily unique, because I don't think that the layperson knows or cares what Amusement Today is. I think it's very much an industry thing and an enthusiast thing. But again, when it comes down to, uh, you know, Don's Fun World wins best food, you can market that. We're an award-winning food park because of this food, or award-winning park because of our new ride or whatever. I think
Yeah, you can
that's
do
where the
that.
true value is. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably 3, maybe low 4s digits worth of people that look at Amusement Today, make purchasing decisions based on the golden tickets. But I think the value isn't there, it's certainly somewhere else, and I think that what they're doing is very, very good, especially with the fact that, that Golden Ticket Award, uh, issue, the one that comes out in September-ish, um, that one's always loaded, and it's like, if you get your hands on that, that's like Christmas if you want reading material, as a somebody
Yeah.
that loves the industry. There are different types of people that love the industry. There's people that, really wanna get as many credits as possible and worry about how many credits they have and, whether an RMC is, what
Now we're going to talk about that in an
yeah,
upcoming
yeah.
episode too. We're going to have our good friend Andrew Stillwell one from Coaster 101, and we'll talk about credits and why they
Right,
matter
right.
or don't matter.
But
Be
the
a
thing
credit,
though
what
is,
should be a credit.
and they're also the ones that are like, is Orion a Giga, that sort of stuff. And that's important to them, and that's fine. But to me, and probably to you before you were in the, I mean, I'm certain to you before you're in the industry, I love to see what's behind the curtain. I love to see the why and the where and the how, rather than really caring about what's going on. Um,
I was more interested in that, Ryan. When I really started getting involved in the 1980s, riding the racer over and over again, and all that. When there would be a new ride announced, at that time there's not social media or the internet or anything to look it up. You had to rely on newspaper articles to find things. But I wasn't as enamored about the statistics of a ride as others can get. I wasn't interested if it was a record breaker. That meant nothing to me if the ride experience wasn't great. So I was always more interested in how does it work, what all is involved, what is there before the ride, is there a pre-show, is there a lot of theming to it, um, so I was looking for the whole package, kind of like you do.
yeah, I would completely agree, and I would say that the perfect example of what separates people like us from people on the other side of the category, and I'm not putting down either side. I'm just saying that there is a like a stratification to the people that love the parks. Is the perfect example of that is the Jimmy Kimmel race through New York at Universal. The ride itself sucks. Let's just say it. It's very bland. At a seasonal park, it would be pretty good. At Universal, it's not up to par. The ride experience, though, getting in line, the live entertainment in there, the fact that it looks like NBC, the fact that you feel like you're on the Tonight Show, that is an A+ experience. So if you like that, if you think that it's worth riding because of this whole thing is awesome, then you probably fall into our camp. Because I think that's a generalization of where you can have that appreciation. But if you're just like, yeah, the queue's cool, but the ride sucks, like you're probably on the other side of wanting to ride the racer 10,000 times. Bad example since obviously you fall into this camp more so than them.
I had nothing better to do in the 80s, so yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I
I mean
did
you could
that.
have
But
you could have uh I don't what did they do in the 80s? I was born in 83, so this is before I was born. You could have seen Queen in concert or something. That's the
no,
only
no,
example
it
I can
was
think
just
of. Could have played with your
just go
pet
ride the
rock.
same roller coaster over and over again and call it a day.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's an interesting conversation to be had, and I think we will save that for Andrew Stillwell. But yeah, very interesting. Golden Ticket Awards, and not just that. I mean, to further on top of that, if parks do win, or if they get second place or third place or whatever, what do they do with it from there? Because one thing that does come to mind is every park that's not foolish has that sign up saying voted world's best steel coaster 2014 through 27, whatever. But Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville, Kentucky is the only one that put up a banner that said voted second best new ride of 2000 whatever when Storm Chaser opened. Which to me, I thought that was comical because why would you advertise you're in second place? But I think to the average person, they might look at it and be like, I bet a lot of rides open. This is the second best one. Like, I'm happy with that. And if anything else, it's a conversation piece, really. Like,
No,
who's
I mean
number
that's
one? I
that's
want to go ride
I
that.
mean that really is. I mean that is something to really be proud of. I mean, there's lots of rides out there, and you finish number two. Not a bad place to be.
Well, a wise man once said, if you're not first,
If you're not first, you're last. I know. Ricky Bobby.
oh, yeah.
Reese Bobby actually told Ricky Bobby that.
That's what his papa always told him.
That's right.
All right. Okay.
But then later on, they realized, no, you don't have to be first. You can be second. You can be fourth. You can be sixth. As long as you compete, that's all that matters. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting way off track here again.
Yeah. This
That's
has
the
not been
overview
a
on the
good
attractions
episode,
of
and
the
I feel like I
podcast.
say that every time. Okay. All right. So, Don, enough about golden tickets and types of enthusiasts and Jimmy Kimmel. It's time for a segment we like to call the Pick Six. Why don't you get
And this is
started?
what people. This is why people stick with us all the way through the end, Ryan. It's
I've
the
been
pick
telling
six.
people we're giving away Bitcoin at the end of the show, and that's why they stick around.
Okay. Well, there you go. Uh, well, starting out number one for the pick six is Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party returned to Disney's Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando. This fall event offers the Boo to You Halloween Parade, live stage shows, Disney's Not So Spooky Spectacular Fireworks Show, and trick or treating at different candy stops. Now, I've done this event. I thought it was outstanding. So much to see, so much to do. Uh, the show that they had was really good in front of the castle. The fireworks were great. The parade was fun and engaging. So Ryan, have you ever experienced this event, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party?
I have not. I'm actually gonna be down there during the event, though. On the fence,
Got to do it.
I want to. It's very expensive, but
Got to
you're
do it.
right. I mean, they have that show. Isn't the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus are the host of the?
Sanderson sisters, yeah, and it's like I said, it's a very engaging show, high energy. Um, it's so much fun watching it, and then the trick or treat stops. I mean, you get good candy. I mean, it was
I
good.
am
It was a
I
lot of
am
fun.
definitely in it for the candy. We're particularly excited about seeing the decorations and stuff like that, which we will be able to see during the day. I think
Well done,
Magic King.
well done. They're blended in. They don't take away from the Disney experience, but I mean they're kind of blended in there. The atmosphere is good. Um, yeah, but if you're going to be down there, Ryan, you got to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm trying to justify it with the rest of my group. We are doing Halloween Horror Nights. We're doing a VIP tour of that. I'm sure we'll do a whole episode talking about Horror Nights and stuff. But particularly excited about that. Maybe we'll be able to justify it. We're there in the early season, and we could probably go during the week. I know that they don't do it on like Monday and Tuesday, but maybe like a Wednesday wouldn't be terribly pricey, and we'll have to check it out. And I'll take a bunch of photos and video for us. Yeah.
You'll love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. All right, story number 2. So we have good news for Disney, then we have bad news for Universal. So Universal's Hogwarts Express, which is the train ride that runs between studios and Islands of Adventure, deeply immersive with a Harry Potter theme. That is going to be closed from December 10th through the 16th, 2023, and that's right before the Christmas rush. So they're probably trying to get it out of the way. It seems like it's typical maintenance. I know that this has happened before. I've heard of it closing for a few days. This thing runs all day, every day, all the time. Got to replace that cable, got to replace that motor, something like that. So, taking about 6 days to get that fixed. I should note, though, that this particular ride is a unique experience in which it does go to the various parks. So, if you want to experience this, not between December 10th and the 26th of 2023, because it'll be closed, but any other time, you have to have the two park ticket, their version of the park hopper to ride in between. Now, you rode this, didn't you, when we were down there for IAPA?
Oh, I've done it many times. It's a nice, convenient transport between Universal Studios and Universal Islands of Adventure. So, as you mentioned, you need a two-park ticket, but it's a great way to get transported between the two. But if not, well, it's going to be down December 10th through the 16th. It proves the theory everywhere is walking distance if you have the time.
Yep, and every pizza is a personal pan pizza if you believe in yourself.
No, it's the timing of it. I mean, no matter what time of the year that they do this, it's gonna inconvenience somebody. Somebody's gonna be disappointed with it. But at least it's right before the big holiday rush that they have from mid-December all the way to the first of the year.
Completely agree. Yeah, there's no great time to do this, but if you had to pick a time, this is that time. All right, what's next?
Well, what's that announced? It's a complete 2023 Halloween Horror Nights lineup, and this is Universal Studios Hollywood, not the one in Orlando, but the one out in California. Um, they've got reimagining of one of their attractions, Evil Dead Rise theme scare, and offering frightening haunted houses dubbed Monstruos. I'm going to call it Monstruos, the monster of Latin America, and Holidays in Hell. The event will also include Terror Tram, The Exterminators, and details on each of these shows is available on their website. Check it out. All the attention goes to the Halloween event in Orlando, but this one's pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's on par. I know that in Orlando, uh, it's nothing for them to have a haunted house with $1 million budget. I challenge you to find another park that has $1 million budget for their entire Halloween event, as far as decor and all that stuff. But one thing that I have noticed about Horror Nights, and we'll probably go into this more in depthly once I'm refreshed with it when I go to the Orlando one, is it's not like your typical boo scare haunted house thing. It's more like you're having the experience of being in a movie, you know? So it's less.
It's immersive. Yeah, you're right. It's immersive, and you are brought into the story.
Yeah, and but so I never found it too scary, but it was more like fascinating. Some people would say it's scary. I'm a little like immune to it. I'm a 40-year-old dude, so I'm not a shrieking 12-year-old, you know, but to me it was more like it's fascinating that they can pull this off and how they can make it look so real and kind of like, you know, the dark rides at Universal and Disney where you feel like you're in the movie. That's the way it felt for me. That was the main difference.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. I wouldn't put it as a, from my experience with it, not like the scary part of it. I think you're going to find more of the scare. If you're at Knott's Berry Farm for their Scary Farm event than you are at Universal um, for their horror nights. But it's really, like you said, well done, very well thought out, storytelling at its finest during the Halloween season.
Absolutely. All right. So next up, this is story number 4, and we have not left Central Florida yet, I might add. But H2O water park.
We did. We just did. We went to
Oh, that's
California. We
true,
were
but
out in
we were
California.
talking about Universal, so Universal Orlando, so I got thrown off.
Yeah.
Okay, so but anyway, back to Central Florida. H2O Water Park in Kissimmee, Florida, is set to host Holiday Nights, and that's going to be an event that begins on November 8th and will run on select nights through December 10th, before switching to daily operations from December 13th through the end of the year, December 31st, 2023. So the events will include a train ride, theme displays, inflatable slides, live entertainment, and food and beverage. So I think that's kind of cool. You don't think of Florida when you think of Christmas, but I have been down there during kind of the Christmas-ish season, and it just doesn't feel the same. But is this the way that people in Florida celebrate Christmas, kind of like how we go ice skating and stuff? I mean, do you know?
I don't know, because I don't live there that time of the year, but you're seeing more and more of the different attractions, different parks, and that throughout Central Florida, getting more involved in putting on these holiday events. And there's good reason to do it. It's just like, you only saw a few people, 15, 20 years ago doing Halloween events. Now everybody does them. So it's along those lines. I think you had me at Train Ride.
I had you at
So
hello.
yeah, you had me at Train Ride there. So I'd have to check it out for that. But it's a nice little place. I know where it's located. It's worth checking out. It's not going to be on par most likely. As some of the bigger holiday events in December that you're going to find in the Orlando area, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, completely agree. So that's H2O Water Park in Kissimmee, Florida. For those of you who are not familiar with Central Florida, you know it is Kissimmee, Florida, but you'd be wrong. Okay, Don, what's up next?
Well, according to a story published earlier this year by U.S. News and World Reports, a pair of Ohio spots are among the 17 best amusement parks in the country. And I'm pretty sure you can guess what those are. We're talking, of course, Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, and Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. And good reason for both of those parks to make this list. You look at Cedar Point, you got 70 plus rides, 18 world class roller coasters. You've got the resort area with the hotels. You can spend multiple days there. You almost have to. Then you look at Kings Island, some of the best roller coasters in the world there with the Beast. You got Mystic Timbers, you got Orion, you got Diamondback, you got the Racer. Um, you know, Great kids area. So with good reason that both of those parks make that list of the 17 best amusement parks in the country.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, how can you have a top 5 list of parks in the country and not have Kings Island, Cedar Point, or even likely both on that list? 2 parks that offer so much. Cedar Point, you know, I've talked about that. To me, the park is great. It really is. But the setting on the beach and Breakers Hotel and the whole complex that is like the campground and stuff, that's what makes it just so special. It has that kind of Disney World feel where you're so disconnected from the rest of the world. And you're just there on the water and you're riding coasters, and at night you take a walk on the beach, and I think it's just fantastic. And I mean,
Yeah, and Ryan, if you go there specifically for the coasters, and that's all, one track mind, I got to ride all the coasters and that,
mm,
you're going to miss that element of it.
I completely agree, and you know what? The first couple times that I went there, I went with some friends that are, like, super enthusiasts, and, in their defense, they wanted to make sure that I got to ride everything, and they did that, and I remember going and thinking, like, I had fun, but, yeah. I don't see myself doing this all the time, but, especially in the past 3 years when, I've been more so going, like, with my girlfriend and stuff, and we stay at breakers, and that whole experience of park by day, beach by night is just I just got a full new appreciation. You just can't do Cedar Point without doing either one of the campgrounds or doing breakers. One of the ones on the peninsula. Breakers Express is great, but you're not on the peninsula that way, you know. So yeah.
What's
All
next?
right. Last one up, number 6. In an exciting update, photos posted on X, which I'm still getting used to. It's still Twitter to me. By Coaster Empire shows a large tree clearing in the Universal Hollywood area. So I guess we're back there again now for the Fast and the Furious roller coaster. So the Fast and the Furious roller coaster is, I guess this means they're not going to get the Fast and the Furious ride that they got at Universal Orlando, which most would consider a win because the one in Orlando is just panned by everybody. It's very similar to Kong, but not as good. But a Fast and Furious roller coaster makes all the sense in the world. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And, we've talked about this over the last few episodes, but it always seems like Universal every week, they've got something that's going on in the news that you and I have to put in this pick six.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This time it's Hollywood. Hollywood's a smaller park. They don't ruffle as many feathers and stuff as Orlando because Orlando, just like with Disney World, it was built with intention rather than just kind of happening. So they have a lot more room and stuff. But man, the Hollywood thing looks cool. And they've got Super Nintendo World and Secret Life of Pets. Those are the two big differences between what the things you can't find at Universal Orlando that you can at Hollywood. So I got to make it out there. I've actually never even been to California. So yeah,
Never?
I have never been. The furthest I've ever been west is St. Louis, and that was with you.
Oh, I still remember that, getting off at the wrong stop on that, what was it, the train or
It
whatever
was
we
like a
rode. We got off on
subway,
the wrong
yeah.
stop.
And then we got off at the wrong stop, and we had to trudge through like this retaining wall behind or next to the expressway. We were behind it in darkness in a rather dangerous city at the time. Um, but we made it. We made it.
We did make it, but yeah, well, I think we had no choice but to go behind the wall so we weren't seen.
That's true. We like to work under the cloak of darkness. All right. Great episode, Don. Any final thoughts?
Ryan, it's we touched on the beginning with the different announcements. We had four of them we talked about on this episode. There'll be more in the weeks ahead. It's a fun time of the year because everybody gets excited about what's new. It also is a little bit of a sad time of year because all the parks are slowing down with the daily operation. Uh, and you're getting ready for that fall season when it's just weekend. So in that respect, it's a little bit of a sad time of the year. But overall, it's fun to talk about all these new things that are coming and look toward the future there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, again, that's fantastic. And make sure that you follow us on X, Twitter, whatever, at attractions_GRP. Um, you can listen to us on any of your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, and watch us on YouTube if you haven't. Search for the Attractions Group podcast. All right.
And subscribe. Hit
Hit
that
that
subscribe button.
subscribe and that like button and comment. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.